everybody. I'm Bonnie Squires. I'm the host and producer of Bonnie's Beat. I like to showcase people who are doing remarkable things for our communities, whether it's academia, politics, arts and culture, a nonprofit. But today, I've got someone who's a friend and a brilliant jurist. Her name is Judge Maria McLaughlin. Remember that name? Well, you're going to see it behind her the whole time we're talking. Hi, Maria.
Hello, Bonnie. I am so thankful to be here and be your friend and get to have this exposure.
And because it's COVID-19 and nobody can go anywhere or do anything, how are you going to get people to sign your petitions when you can't go to the store?
And to think about it, in all 67 counties and on a statewide basis is such an enormous task and headache. But I'm ready. We prepared for this because we knew at least the whole primary election was going to be basically COVID campaigning, which is, very difficult. And when I got into this, people were saying to me, are you crazy getting into this during COVID? Like, what are you thinking on a statewide basis? And I said, well, look, someone's going to win during COVID, aren't they? So why not me? So I am doing it. And we have so many different ways. The unions are still going to be such a great sense of support for me. And even though they don't have big gatherings or anything anymore, they'll still have numerous petitions. Now I think it's just going to be a lot more sheets with less signatures. But it doesn't mean I'm not going to get the required signatures. I'm going to have much more than the required signatures. And in some of the rural counties, they're having drive-through petitions signings where you bring your own pen, and they're having gloves so that everything is safe. Some of them are having food drives. You come and get canned foods, and you can also get a petition. I think Lycoming County is having a pork chop dinner, and you drive through and you get a pork chop dinner and you sign petitions. So all over the counties, we are thinking of different ways of doing it. We're going to do it.
Maria McLaughlin, she looks like a teeny bopper, right? But she's got 29 years under her belt of being an assistant district attorney, of being a judge of the Superior Court, and now she's a candidate for the state Supreme Court. But that means she's got to run through all 67 counties across the state, which is not an easy thing to do. But people know you already because you've been a star for a long time, Maria, right?
Thank you. I don't know about that, but I do know that I work harder than anybody I know because nothing was ever given to me. And in 2017, when I ran for Superior Court, I know why I was the top vote getter. And it wasn't for any other reason except for hard work. I was the only candidate statewide that visited all 67 counties. And so I did that for a reason. First of all, out of respect. If you're going to ask somebody to do your petitions, to stand out in the cold and hand out pork chop dinners for you, wonderful women that are doing these things for me in Lycoming County, don't I owe it to them to show up? And so I did. I didn't keep myself in my little bubble in Philadelphia. I was out in Elk County and Sullivan County and Wayne and Venango, in these red counties that, ordinarily Democrats don't go into. And so they feel overlooked. And I made sure that they weren't going to be overlooked by me. So the first reason I did it was out of respect. The second reason I did it was to be a better Superior Court judge, because I was no longer going to be a judge just in Philadelphia. And my cases were not just going to come from Philadelphia or Allegheny County. They came from all those other little counties in between. And so I wanted to be a better statewide judge, and I am now, because when I get these cases, not only do I know where it's from, I know the importance. It's different. We all have the same Democratic values if we're Democrat, Republican values if you're a Republican. But the state is diverse. And you need to get there and see it and spend time with people to realize it so that when the cases come before me, I know what's important. I know whether the judge made a mistake because I was there and spent time there. And so I think that was the most important part of my campaign in 2017. And it is no different now just because of COVID. I say if I have to do 67,000 Zooms to get to 67 counties, I will do it.
And your husband, Jonathan Seidel, who is a seasoned veteran elected official for many, many years, he was Philadelphia's controller. He's got a good head for figures. What can I tell you?
And I am very grateful to have him. What everybody doesn't know is that he treats me just as hard, if not harder, than any candidate that he has ever supported. It is no different in our household. At dinner, he might be different. But when it comes to politics and campaigning, he cracks that whip and makes sure that I am doing everything I should. I don't get any kind of special treatment. I'm not allowed to whine or complain, nothing. He won't have it. And you know what? It's done me pretty good so far because I've won every time that I ran, and I hope that it's no different this time.
Where did you go to college?
I am a Penn Stater.
But I forgive you, but because I'm university.
I know.
I grew up across the street from Lower Merion Township.
I did.
Park, right?
I did in Overbrook Park, and Lower Merion was a stone throw away. And so I spent tons of time in Montgomery County. My family's in Montgomery County. I went to the mikveh in Montgomery County. Montgomery County is near and dear to my heart. They are a huge reason of why I am who I am today as a Superior Court judge.
What does a Superior Court judge actually do?
So the Superior Court judge is an error correcting court. So we don't have trials. We don't see litigants. We have only attorneys who argue before us. Every now and then, a pro se litigant will argue. But it's an intellectual court. We never sit with just one judge because there could never be a tie. So there are always 3 judges presiding at any time. And for certain issues of great import or where our court is in conflict, then we sit with 9 judges in an en banc panel. And we sit between Philadelphia, Harrisburg, and Pittsburgh. So because I am a judge on the Superior Court from Philadelphia, my chambers are in Philadelphia. But I sit between all 3 of those counties where our courts preside, and then we pick 3 special sessions a year. And I did the Montgomery County special session the very first year that I was on our court. So I was happy. That was my first special session.
What made you want to run for office?
Well, look, I grew up in a row home in Overbrook Park. My parents were not educated. I was the first one in my family to go to college. That was a big deal. I never in my wildest dreams thought I would be a candidate for our state's highest court. I never in my wildest dreams, people say, oh, did you dream to be this? A dream in my family was graduating from college. And if I didn't have 3 part-time jobs and a cheerleading scholarship, I wouldn't have even gone to Penn State. People go, oh, did you pick Penn State? No. Penn State picked me. I got a partial cheerleading scholarship, and I was able to work part-time jobs and go there. So that's it. It wasn't any fancy story or anything like that. So knowing I could do this, it was all in steps. It was little baby steps. When I wound up going to college and then realized I could go to law school. And then when I was a district attorney, seeing that I could actually be a judge.
Where'd you go to law school?
I went to law school, the Delaware Law School, Widener University. Okay. John and I are both alums from there.
Okay. And what made you decide you wanted to be an attorney?
I like to argue. And so my parents would always say, because I grew up in an Italian family, and this is really funny, because we would always go to my grandmother's in Overbrook every Sunday for dinner. All the men would sit and the women would get up and clean up. And so I had my two mom's two older sisters were nuns, and so no children there. Then came my mother. I'm the first of the grandchildren, so I'm a lot older than all my little cousins. Then came my uncle, who was at one time the CEO of Tasty Cake and the president of our Chamber of Commerce, and he had four.
What's wrong?
Charles Peasy.
Charlie Peasy is your uncle? I never knew that.
See, Bon, look at how you were finding out things for the first time, despite being friends for years. But that's my mom's brother. And so he had four boys, and then my aunt had one girl. So I'm the oldest. I was there, and it was me and my brother. And I think my Uncle Charlie's little one was just a baby at the time, Justin, who was on the news. And so I would complain when all the women got up to clean up, and they said, "Come on, Maria, you got to clean up too." My grandfather would say, I said, "I'm not cleaning up. When my brother cleans up, that's when I'll get up."
Yeah.
And so everybody in my family, that's when they said she's going to be a lawyer, because all she does is argue. So that's really true. Did I know at that time that's where my path was going to lead? No, I just like to know that I'm doing what I want, and I'm not going to take just somebody telling me what to do.
You're like a United Nations, your background,
I
because
sure am.
you were raised Catholic
Yep.
and your mother was very religious. And then you chose to convert to Judaism
I
and
did.
even went to the mikveh in Wynwood.
I did.
I'm very impressed with that.
It was a wonderful experience. And see, I think that's what I love about, us, our families, the democratic values. I just love the fact that, we're all inclusive. A funny thing is, my Jonathan, what he always tells this story, my son Dante Sisifo, okay, I can't get more Italian than that. He studied abroad. He's a photojournalist, and he studied abroad in Israel at Hebrew U in Betzalel. And so he fell in love with the country. And so he was in the Peace Corps in Zambia, Africa, until COVID hit. But he was there for over a year. And so John always loves to tell the story how he raised 4 Jewish kids, but the only one to volunteer on a kibbutz is Dante Sisifo, my son, because he did. Before Peace Corps, he had 6 months, and he chose to volunteer on a kibbutz. So, and he participates in Shabbat every Friday night, and my aunts go to church every Sunday. I mean, I think that's the wonderful thing about us, is that we are who we are. Everybody's all inclusive. And I converted to Judaism for myself, not my husband. I did it because it's what I wanted to do. I was already married before I converted, so there's no reason I didn't have to. He didn't ask me to. If he would, I would have said no, because again, I'm the same little girl that wouldn't get up and clean with all the other Italian aunts and my mother. I wouldn't convert for anybody but myself. My husband has a wonderful group of friends who are like family to us, and just hearing them speak of their Judaism, but also their love for Israel, which I also fell in love with because, I was a single mom for many years, so I'm very crazy with my boys. And when they studied over there, of course I went. And then I went again when he was on the kibbutz. So I was in Israel 4 times over the course of 3 years.
When you say single mom, I have to argue with that, because you were a divorced mother raising kids alone. There's a difference between, I always think of a single mom, someone who was never married. And
Right.
people use that term a lot, but they really mean somebody was either divorced or widowed and raised children on their own. So you were a divorced mother, not a single mother.
Well, how I look at it is, during the time period that I was a single mom because there was a single person taking care of my boys. So that's why I say single mom. I most certainly was divorced and now remarried to a wonderful man, but single mom is a single person taking care of your kids. And that's what I was.
Okay.
Happened to be divorced too, yes.
You mentioned the phrase Democrats earlier. You recently got this fabulous endorsement from the Pennsylvania Democratic committee? Were there other people that put themselves forward that wanted to be endorsed for running for the Supreme Court?
There was. And so I was so happy that I got over 81% of the vote. Over 81%,
That's amazing.
81.7 to be exact. And so, and I know the same reason I came out on top the last election. The remarkable thing about state party endorsement, you know, it has nothing to do with money or unions or political influence. It has to do with hard work. When I sent out a blast email announcing my candidacy for Supreme Court, the first folks that got back to me were from the rural counties. Huntington County, Judge, you were the only one that came out to our corn boil. You're in, 100%, we're behind you.
What
And
is
so
a corn boil?
the corn boil, it's exactly that. In Huntington County, they have a corn boil. And the Democratic Party, you go onto this big farm. I ate 4 ears of corn, I think, the most delicious corn I ever had. But they usually don't have statewide candidates that pay them the respect to come. So I was with all the local candidates. And honestly, the Democratic Party is certainly not in the majority there. So it may have been a small event, but guess what? It's an event that they'll never forget that I went to. But guess what? They also get votes at state committee. So when you go to these things in Huntington County and Sullivan County and Elk County and all these counties that nobody ever heard of, I all have friends there now. And they didn't forget because it was only 4 years ago. So I think that's why I was lucky enough to win the endorsement, and I did have competition, so I won.
Uh, you've always been a winner. Amazing.
And always with competition.
How long were you an assistant district attorney?
19 and a half years.
Wow. Under which DAs?
Lynn Abraham and Seth Williams, but just a short time because that's when I had to resign to run for judge. I started at the bottom in the DA's office and worked my way up to being the youngest female chief in the history of Philadelphia. And I owe that to Lynn Abraham because I don't believe if there was a male DA at the time that I would have had that opportunity. But Lynn Abraham entrusted that opportunity in me as just a 30-year-old, and I took over for a 72-year-old guy. So I owe her a lot.
When we talk about the advancement of women, we have to look at the makeup of the state Supreme Court. And as you well know, Justice Sandra Schultz Newman was the first woman elected in her own right to the state Supreme Court. But now there are how many women on the state Supreme Court?
There are 7 justices and 3 are women. And if I am up there, now we will be in the majority, Bon, and I think it's about darn time.
Well, at least there won't be fistfights because the men generated all kinds of negative publicity. Supreme Court justices in a fist fight. It was so embarrassing.
Well, that will not be if I am on that court. I'm honored to be on that court. And the other wonderful thing about it is Justice Deborah Todd will be our first ever in the history of the Supreme Court female Chief Justice. So I certainly want a part of that, not only because she is just a wonderful friend and jurist, but look at that history that's going to be made. And I want to be part of that, Bonnie.
Well, you got my vote. You know. If you could wave a magic wand, what would you do to our justice system to correct some inequities?
I think education is where it's at, and we have to realize that everything starts from being educated. I mean, I may have come from uneducated parents, but the most important thing for them was that I was. And so me, as a single mom at that time, divorced single mom, I can't even imagine if I came home to my parents and said, can I go into the Peace Corps in Zambia, Africa, and live with no electricity and no plumbing? My parents would be like, is it further than the JCC at City Line in Haverford? Because the answer is no. So for me to have sons who are so willing to give of themselves, I have one who went into the Peace Corps, and the other one is a chef in Italy, that every time that he's home, I make sure his butt is down at Manna giving back, because it's important. And I think education is so important, and the magic wand to make things that are so unequal to folks, start off with that. We have to help people when we're in a position to do that. And I never thought I would be, and I am. And I never forget that because I give back all the time.
There have been so many stories in the newspapers, on television, about Black and brown people who were unfortunately caught up in a racist system. And I don't believe that everybody who's involved with the judicial system is a racist. But there are so many examples of people that spend 20, 40, 60 years in jail and are freed. What can be done about these injustices?
Well, I think you have to lead by example, and it's something that I've always done. For example, something that's not publicized. We get a certain amount of law clerks as a Superior Court judge. And so I made sure that my staff, my senior staff, my law clerks, were from every community. And that was despite the fact that I may not have been getting applicants, many minority applicants. I just wasn't. Whether or not it's because Superior Court law clerks or, appellate law clerks are come from a certain pool, I don't know. All that I know is I was ready to get sworn in, and people were saying, "What are you doing? You still have a position open. How are you going to start? There's boxes of cases waiting for you." And I said, "I'm going to recruit. If I don't have a minority, I'm leaving a position open until I do." I made sure that my staff is indicative of our world. And so I lead by example. And I think that's the only way to make change. When I was a single divorced mother, I left my own kids, got babysitters, and went out into the minority communities in Philadelphia, in North Philadelphia, and taught young boys who were having multiple children what they can do, what better programs there are. I go into the women's prisons with other judges. When female prisoners are about to get out of jail 1 month, we bring clothing and jewelry and teach interview skills, how to get custody of their children back so that they don't end up back in jail. I think you have to lead by example. And the way that you do that, you don't have to have brown or Black skin. We have to do that too. Everybody has to do that. And that's what I've always done. And that's what I've taught my kids to do. I sent my kids to public school in Philadelphia so that they could have Black History Month, so that they can have a Black History course. That's why I sent my kids to public high school. I don't want them to grow up in a bubble. That's why they are open to everybody. You learn from who you are. And my parents brought me up like that. They may not have been educated, but they certainly didn't want me to be brought up with any kind of biases or anything like that. And so I try to just do that and also lead by example because I'm in a position where I can.
What's your favorite television show?
Oh God, Fauda on Netflix, but it's Fauda is an Israeli armed forces kind of show with subtitles, but I love it. But it's a limited series. But now it's on 3, so if you want to watch it, you can binge watch because there's 3 series of it. Fauda, Fauda. I love it.
Oh, I saw that a while ago. I mean, I live on Netflix a lot of the time.
Well, you want to watch that
as soon as the hearings are finished. And but there are some wonderful things. But I thought you might be attracted to some of the legal shows like Bull or.
I love Bull. I like light things. I like to escape when I watch TV. I don't sit there and watch the History Channel with John, not for a minute. I have to do intellectual things all day long. I need to escape in TV.
Did you have a mentor when you went to law school?
Yeah, the same mentor I had my entire life, my mother. The same mentor that when she had cancer and I wasn't going to run for judge the first time, stood outside Rittenhouse Park with no hair on her head and got me every single signature I needed to be on the ballot. The same woman that, up and down the chemo lounges at University of Penn because she knew it was more than just Philadelphians, campaigned for me and handed out my palm cards with me right by her side, introducing me to all her friends that she met over 9 years of chemo. My female hero is her.
9 years of chemo. What kind of cancer was she diagnosed with initially?
Ovarian cancer, and I lost her this past March. But I never had to look outside my walls of my home for my hero.
That's amazing. Ovarian cancer. You're
9 years.
you're not supposed to last that long.
They gave her 18 and a half months to 5 years, and she lived 9.5 because she's a fighter. And guess what, Bon? I am my mother.
Do you do anything for the various cancer societies?
We do. Yes, we do. I mean, it affects everybody. And it didn't affect my family any differently, but the way that she lived and the way that she fought, you can't get a better role model than that. It doesn't have to be a lawyer.
With the vaccinations for COVID, we have some problems in Pennsylvania. I hate it when people are blaming Governor Wolf because it's really not his fault. Before the 45th, the former president left office, he assured everyone that there was a stockpile of vaccinations. But as usual, he lied. And the cupboard was bare when President Biden went to look for this alleged stockpile of COVID-19. But they're working very hard to make a real stockpile and to make sure. I haven't been vaccinated yet. The chairman of the Montgomery County Board of Commissioners gave me the link to pre-register. So I did. Dr. Arkush gave me the link.
I love her.
Yeah, she's fabulous.
Happy to have her in my corner too.
She's fabulous. But the email I got from them is that it would be 6 to 10 weeks till I would be assigned a place to go to get a vaccination. And quite frankly, I don't leave my house, so nobody comes here. I'm home with my 2 cats. My husband is stuck across the ocean because of COVID. He can't get back yet. He was at his father's funeral in Tunisia a couple years ago, and then while he was there, Tunisia was shut down, America was shut down. The planes were not flying.
Yeah, look, I had 2 sons that had to come from overseas too during COVID. I had one that was, in Africa and one in Italy. But, they're both home.
That's amazing that you got them home.
Yeah.
There's another story there that we'll do another time.
Oh, yeah. They're home and safe, and that's all that matters. And hopefully we'll all be safe soon.
Where do they live?
So when my mom passed away, my one son who was in Africa is living there, and the one that was in Italy and now just got a job in Miami at the Four Seasons.
The Four Seasons is open?
In Florida, yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's very different than it is here.
Yeah. But hopefully we'll all be vaccinated, and next year this will just be a nightmare.
Let's hope we're all vaccinated, and you can now call me Justice.
Justice Maria McLaughlin.
Has a nice ring, Bon.
Yes, it has a lovely ring to it. I love it. Our guest today has been Superior Court Judge, soon to be Justice on the State Supreme Court, please God, Maria McLaughlin. So we'll see everybody next week.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and hello, Montgomery County and beyond.
And Delaware County, because...
And Delco. Oh, can't forget Delaware.
Because Radnor, we're coming to you through the auspices of Radnor Studio 21 and Mainline Television.
Oh, I am grateful.
So thank you, Vince Celli. He's our station manager.
Thank you, Vince.
Okay, have a good weekend, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everybody.